his BE from Andhra University in 1985 and has completed MTech from REC Warangal in 1988 and completed his PhD from JNT University in 2001. So, Sir is working as a professor in JNTU since 2006, and Sir is a chairman, working chairman for Swechha organization. And Sir has also served as a director for R&D cell in JNTU. And Sir is currently serving as coordinator for IPR cell of the university. And Sir has conducted various training programs and has journals of around 80 journals. And Sir has membership in various professional bodies like IEEE, IETE, IE, ISTE, and CSI. And Sir has also involved in various research projects that are funded by ITNC department, UGC, and DLRF. Sir has guided various research scholars for their PhD, successful completion of PhD, and his research interests include implementation of embedded systems, pattern recognition, OCR, language modeling, and man-machine interaction. So now I request Dr. L. Pratap Reddy Garu, Professor in EC Department, JNTU, to join us and deliver his valuable lecture on the NEP 2020.
Thank you, Murali Krishna. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
you
sir,
are
you are
audible, sir.
audible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Nice to have an occasion to share with all of you on the recent developments with specific emphasis on innovation and entrepreneurship, which is art of the day. Uh, Everybody is talking about today in India, digital India, make in India, innovation, entrepreneurship, startups. So all these things are going to be the art of the day in India. Across the world, also, these words are becoming more and more popular. That's the context in which we are actually living in a in a specific world. So let me try to give some kind of a overall dimension of these aspects and how exactly it is embedded in the national education policy. That's the kind of combination which I thought of sharing with you. And there are certain innovations which the organization which I am associated with is also doing certain amount of innovations. And I thought of sharing some of the innovations with you all because they are very popular among among multiple people. And that's the reason why I thought of sharing those experiences and how that innovation actually initiated and how it came to reality. Also, I thought of sharing with you all. And and the final point which I'd like to provide is the at the end of my session, maybe till 12 o'clock, I'll take the session, and then a query question answer session. Let's continue after that. I expect more number of questions in such a way that the young minds will definitely have a large amount of questions in their minds. So let me just look at uh, the kind of queries that comes from the young minds. So that's the expectation which I want. Well, uh, when we look at the word innovation, see, every word has its own meaning and also its context. The word innovation, what does it mean? We Many people use this word innovation uh, with uh, with the contemporary words which differ from the word innovation in detail. Like, for example, invention is a word, creativity is another word, and entrepreneurship is another word. Innovation and creativity differs, innovation and invention differs, innovation and entrepreneurship differs. So innovation is a word. The meaning of innovation uh, I have just written here a clear meaning which is acceptable by many. Many definitions exist, but this definition has been accepted by a large number of people. That's the reason why I have just kept here. Innovation is the multi-stage process whereby organizations or group of people, individuals or group of people, transform ideas into new or improved products or services or processes in order to advance, compete, and differentiate themselves successfully in their marketplace. So the question of innovation comes where it exists. First of all, it exists in a marketplace. That's a simple understanding. It means that without its workability, without the solution have its own place, have its own marketplace to provide some improvements from margin. It provides margin as far as the creation of wealth is concerned. That will not be called as innovation. Innovation creates wealth. It adds wealth to the existing process or a product or a service, whichever it is. So innovation can happen anywhere. It can happen in products, or it can happen in services, or it can happen in the processes. And it can be new, or it can be an improved version of the earlier, whichever it might be. But the whole question is that the idea which is transforming the organization to create more wealth. So that is a simple, clear understanding of what innovation means. Not necessarily that it should be new always. Remember, it can be an improved version also. Innovation deals with both the types of approaches. It can be an innovation, or it can be a new or a completely different product or service or a process. It can be anything. So let's try to understand. Let's try to understand how exactly the innovation. Yeah. Invention is something different. Invention actually deals with the production. Invention always deals with a new idea, and it has to have something related to production, and it should be new. Invention is always new, whereas innovation need not be new. It can be the older version also. That's the basic difference between invention and innovation. Invention need not create wealth, but innovation is aimed at creating wealth. That's the basic difference. All inventions need not be successful, but innovation, there is a mandatory clause that it should be successful. Then only we call it as innovation, otherwise not. Similar is the case with creativity. See, creativity exists. Every person is creative in his own perspective. Even a student who is studying in a class, he's a mum in the class, but he can be creative. He can be creative in his field of expertise. So every person has creativity in his own domain. The whole question is that how this creative idea is transferred into implementation. Creativity and creative ideas exist, but translating them into reality. This is what innovation does. Creativity deals with ideas which are totally different, which totally rather allows change, but they need not be implementable at that instant of time. They can be implemented at a later stage. But the whole question is that innovation deals with implementation of that. And then there are two types of innovations. Everybody should know it, like sustainable innovation and then disruptive innovation. The sustaining innovation means there is no change in the structure of a process or a system or a product, or connections between the main central idea and the subsections of the whole system need not be changed. But if there is any slight change in the process which gives us more creation of wealth, I am sure that will be treated as innovation. Like, for example, if there is no change in the subjects, all subjects remain same. But what kind of improvement that exists? The way in which subjects are taught is not in the classroom. It is outside the classroom. If it is in the ground, in the ground. So there is no change in the whole syllabus, whole structure, the whole subject units. Nothing is going to be changed. But the way in which it is being taught, instead of teaching in the class, inside the classroom, teach it outside in a ground, and make every student participatory in the process. That becomes a sustaining innovation. What do you mean by disruptive innovation? Change the whole thing. Disruptive innovation completely changes to reduce the syllabus, increase the practicals, increase the outside interaction, like, for example, internships and all. And all these things are going to be added, provide some kind of a choice-based system. So disruptive innovation kills the earlier model and rebuilds a new model. So that's the basic understanding of what the innovations means. This is a simple point. Any process of innovation deals with idea generation, problem solving, and implementation. 3 stages. I'll explain you how these stages are implemented in different experiences of Swechha. But the whole question is that the environment for innovation has to be created. I do not know how many students will be allowed in a particular institution to go ahead with the ideas. Everyone will have ideas, and the main hurdle for implementing the idea is the environment, is the funding. Both of them are going to be crucial, funding and environment. If both of them are provided, some ideas will be successful and some ideas will fail. Here, the process of innovation, if 50% or 80% of the ideas fail, but 20% of the ideas will have certain amount of success rate. Sometimes only 5% of the ideas will have success rate. That's where nurturing of innovation is very, very important. Creation and nurturing of the environment for innovation is mostly the desirable characteristic for innovation to continue. Here I would like to mention one important point. Internet has changed the world, entire world. The way in which we look at it has been completely modified. We have a chance of meeting physically, or rather the discussions, the dialogues all happen when we actually interact each other personally. But internet has allowed us to interact virtually. So internet has become a place, or I can say that it's a virtual place which has the characteristics as that of the physical space also. Very, very important is that here it allows a lot of innovation happen, but a lot of innovation happen on internet at the end user level. end user innovation is the biggest advantage of what you say internet development, expansion of internet, which did not happen earlier. Manufacturing innovation happened earlier. So much amount of innovation happened in the manufacturing sector. Like, for example, the first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution, which strives for automation. Even today, automation is happening. So the entire manufacturing sector, whether it is a product manufacturer or a software manufacturer, it doesn't matter. In both the cases, innovation happened and it continues to happen again. But after the invention of the internet, end user innovation is something which is critical, and we are able to see that kind of a change. Like, for example, one example of end user innovation I'll just mention. One-click solution, Amazon's one-click solution. What it does, you identify which one you would like to purchase and use a simple click, and one mouse click will lead you to purchase whatever you want. This is called one-click solution. It was patented rather by Amazon. It says the communication between the user and the service provider, both of them are dependent on the way in which the end user behaves, end user reacts. So the behavioral model of the end user helped Amazon to create such kind of environment in the platform that they provide for what you call the selling, retail selling. Similar is the case with Facebook. It comes with end user innovations. Similar is the process that you can see with Google. All digital giants today, these 6 companies, Google, generally called as Alphabet, Apple, Facebook, and then Amazon, Microsoft. These are the companies. All these companies are very famous. To be frank enough, if you try to look at the market capitalization figures means today's stock market, you will be able to see there's a huge amount of stock market that is that's happening today. And market capitalization is the method of calculating the wealth of an industry with the number of stocks available in the stock market and the price of each stock value. So that is the market capitalization. And the market capitalization figures, if you try to look at it, these 5-6 companies stood in the top of the world. The turnover of some of these companies is much higher than the Indian budget. That's the way in which they have grown. And this entire process is made possible because of the end user innovation. So we also look at, like many of the students today, computer science students, they actually try to look at end user innovation as part of their projects. Important point. And then one important understanding that we need is that research should provide some kind of a breakthrough for the innovations. But research and innovation, both of them are different. Remember, research deals with the whole process from the bird's eye view. Let's say an innovation might happen in the Nalgonda district pertaining to the farmer's family of Nalgonda, which might be different from the behavioral pattern and the sowing patterns or the crop patterns in the Karimnagar district. Now, the innovation that actually made possible for Nalgonda district farmers may not be applicable to the farmers in Karimnagar. If the situation is different, context is different, then you should have two different kinds of innovative methods to be adopted in both the places. Now, if similar is attempt made at for different kinds of cross section of people across the world, if there is any possibility to combine all of them, then it becomes research. Innovation might happen only for a smaller section of people in a smaller area, but research has to deal with the larger domain. It should adopt to the whole country or to the whole world, and it should bring out commonality among all these innovations for the same target group which I am talking about. But any research and development will allow breakthrough in the innovation. So you need to provide some kind of an R&D environment and innovative nurturing the innovations. Both of them should go hand in hand. That's the point which one of the important aspect as far as innovation is concerned. Innovation deals with practice. It emerges out of practice. Without practice, it's very difficult for us to look at the innovation. Maybe I can say that the students of computer science and IT can think of an innovative method by looking at the practice in the class. Let's say if the whole class students come forward and with a new idea of how the classwork can happen for the next semester, then if all the students are going to participate in it, make a dialogue, understand how the practice goes on, then definitely it's going to be a kind of innovation. Or you can do one thing. You can take the experiences from every student about online classes, compile all the experiences, bring out something which is new out of the practice, then it becomes innovation. So practice is the center point for innovation. All innovations deal with practices. So for that purpose, what we need is professional experiences has to be exchanged with others. So that's an interesting phenomenon. India is famous for frugal innovations. You might be able to see the frizz, Chotu frizz, with the help of mud. It was actually prepared. So replace the electric frizz with a frizz which is being prepared with the help of a mud and charcoal and thermocol and all. It is one of the frugal innovation in India. Foldscope is one. Mobile, when it comes to mobile innovation, Nokia 1100, you can just find a mobile, very small mobile. It's called Nokia 1100, which is very famous somewhere during 2000 and odd. Very famous. Because of Nokia 1100, everyone, even a worker, a rickshaw puller, even a worker at the street food used to have a mobile. It was made possible because of Nokia 1100. An illiterate and a person who does not know reading and writing, both of them should be in a position to use in the same effective way. That is what being aimed at. That's why you will be able to see the screen, the display screen and the keypad. See, they're all being actually defined specifically to meet the requirements of the people who does not know reading and writing. They'll be able to recognize, but they do not know reading and writing, but still they will be in a position to use them. Mobile banking is another frugal innovation in India, you might be able to see UPI, Universal Payment Gateway Interface, UPI, designed by the IIT Madras people. Today, any wallet, digital wallet, uses UPI. Without having a UPI, it's not possible to have the Google Pay or Phone Pay or RuPay wallet, Paytm wallet. No other company can do actually mobile banking without having the base framework of UPI. Is one of the frugal innovation. Nano is one of the frugal innovation. There, if you just, I'll suggest you all to read a book called Jugaad. All frugal innovations in India, you'll be able to find from that book. It's one of the interesting book. Indian scenario is crucial to understand, especially frugal innovation. Any innovation from the rural area, it comes out of their practice, and they're all frugal innovations. Even today, if the students, some of the students coming from villages, I'm sure you are in the forefront of innovations. Maybe the innovation might lead to or might aim at the farmers. Today, farmer struggle is going on. There's a huge amount of uproar at the center. Even today, it's continuing. The farmers' problems are enormous today. Who involves in farming? Whoever involves in farming, they have a huge amount of setbacks, and these setbacks are due to various factors. Natural calamities, one, and then the market is another issue. The pricing is another issue. The amount of manpower which was spent on the farming, and the amount of money spent as investment, and the amount of return that they are getting, there might be completely different kinds of propositions in this. Now, now people like the computer science students can think of how technology can help them in handling these issues, because technology is an important component here. I'll just mention about few open source innovations apart from frugal. Open innovations is another concept. Open source has provided 4 innovations across the world. One is a legal innovation. In a sense, copyright actually gives protection to the person who creates. But in the software domain, what happens is that all people who write software has to transfer their copyright to the company. So who will be getting the benefit is the company. Producer is the programmer, but the company gets the benefit out of it. That's what the legal today's legal aspect as far as copyright is concerned. The open source has kept this legal aspect intact, but it has provided an innovation with the help of freedoms. So general public license has been evolved out of it, GPL. GPL deals with 4 freedoms, keeping the copyright as it is. There is no change in the copyright. It was named as copyleft copyright, but still it's a copyright. It gives 4 freedoms. That's the legal innovation. And then freedom to copy, the legal aspects: freedom to copy, freedom to modify, freedom to advance, freedom to share with your colleagues. These are the 4 freedoms. And then comes process innovation. See, anybody who wants to develop a software, he can simply put it in the website, define what the project is, then mention what are the important tasks, high priority tasks, medium priority tasks, low priority tasks, and clearly define everything. Once you clearly define and invite people to take part in it, that's how open collaboration. it was actually made possible. It's not open collaboration, it's a clear participation. So here, process innovation allowed free software to make people collaborate across the world, irrespective of the geographical conditions, and participate in the development process. The next innovation is tool innovation. In the sense, how do you actually perform version control? SVN is the earlier model of version control, and now it was GitHub or GitLab. Switch actually has its own GitLab. Git allows everyone, even an institution like you, your institution can have a GitLab for yourself. So all projects today, thousands, lakhs of projects are available which are being hosted in GitLab. So tool innovation, especially for version control, is being provided with the help of Git. And the last innovation is the business model innovation, very powerful business model innovation, the potential strategy and tool in the competitive environment. In the sense, the way in which you visualize business, is it the software that you sell, or is it the skill that you sell, or is it the action done by the software that you sell? Two different things. You need not sell the software, but sell the kind of actions that are important. And this is where the business model has completely changed the way in which people understood the entire business. That's the reason earlier people call it as technology aids business. So the technology aiding business actually is evolved out of the model, what you call it as the open source innovations. Now let me come back, trying to have this understanding, let me come back what national education policy says on innovation. It encourages innovation in its fundamental principles of the policy. The policy of the national education policy says it has some fundamental principles. And these fundamental principles says that creativity and critical thinking is the fundamental principle of the policy. So it encourages, or it will try to establish an environment wherein the creativity and critical thinking is the center point of the environment. And these two, creativity and critical thinking, what it does, it actually encourages innovation. And then you have another point which was discussed by the fundamental principle. It says a regulatory framework will be provided to ensure transparency and resource efficiency. What does it mean? Regulation means, regulatory framework means every college, every institution will be given permission based on the performance, based on the availability of resources in the institution, and based on the policies of the institution. It's not only a permission, but also it's going to define where the institutions stand, what kind of approach, or what is the status of the institution in the entire similar set of institutions. Like, for example, MVSR is one institution, engineering institution. Apart from MVSR, there are 100 another institutions of similar kind in the entire Hyderabad. So where this institution MVSR stand? Will it stand in the top, or will it stand in the bottom, or whether it stands in the between? So this is what we call it as identifying the place, its appropriate place of the institution in the entire row. This is what we call it as creation of regulatory approach. That's what accreditation means. NAC accreditation is there, NBA accreditation is there, ranking is there. All these things comes under regulatory framework. Now, whenever a regulatory body, whether it is a NBA accreditation body or NAC accreditation body or the information collected for ranking system, even anything, and this regulatory framework will ask for information about the transparency and resource efficiency, which leads to encouraging innovation. For example, if the students in a respective college found their activity or exhibit their activity in different kinds of areas as multiple innovations, multiple practices, that should be collected by the institution. It does it. If you do a small innovation, I'm sure it's going to be recognized by your institution and your faculty members. Immediately, it will be expressed to or informed to the higher level. So that kind of approach is being followed. And then NEP also says about innovation that the multidisciplinary education is important. Higher education institutions should start incubation centers, technology development centers, centers in frontier areas of research, and then the interdisciplinary research has to be encouraged. So these are all most important aspects of what we call it as encouraging innovation. Innovation, see, one discipline, if you try to look at it, it may not help innovation, but if you try to look at multiple disciplines, a person who is expert in computer science, if he learns, let's say, computational linguistics, then he can really help do research or solve some of the problems. I'll give an example. The question of when Rama, which period Rama was born, is still a question to be answered. People will give answers based on their belief. Belief is one aspect, but appropriate defense for answer is another aspect. Today, the historians generally has to identify when Rama was born, the period in which Rama was born. But today, if they wanted to do it, computer science with the capacity of linguistics is very important. It's a simple understanding. Let's say many of the students who use today a lot of words from their WhatsApp chats, texting chats, which we never used in my life. Maybe I'm around 57 years old. I have studied whatever you are studying now. I have studied in 1980s, early 80s. I never used these words which you are using, but you are using a lot. You use the abbreviations, LOL, many abbreviations which you will be using. I never use them because we don't require them. We have not done any chatting there. But today, your life, you are discussing with your friends. Even in your when you are in class, you will be able to discuss with your friends with the help of social media and chatting. You are making more and more shortcuts. Kind of nomenclature of language has not been used in 1980s. The are using is very specific. It happened only after the internet, after the evolution of social networking sites, social networking platforms. Once they are popular, the language has changed. The complete change in the language happened. It means every period has its own approach of defining the words in a specific term. So if you are able to analyze the more frequently used words in that particular in that particular period, I'm sure the the way in which you explain or evaluate can definitely provide the information about the period in which a particular generation actually lived. So that's how a computational linguist can really bring out more detailed information about when Rama was born based on the literature which was written during that period, not today, during that period, and the annotations which are being used, the words that are being used more frequently. All this analysis can really happen during that period. So an integration of these two will really provide a lot of solutions. That's the way in which today agriculture is dependent more on the research in communication technology. Very important. AI/ML is being used for agricultural research today. So a lot of changes that are happening, and these changes are going to lead from an understanding what you call it as interdisciplinary research. Innovation is linked with interdisciplinary understanding. Interdisciplinary understanding and the focus on research will lead to innovation. That's the way in which students are going to create new set of ideas. And then it also discusses about the optimal learning environment. CBCS is one it talks about. Choice-based credit system. Choice-based credit system means you recently the AICT is talking about one thing. Even without mathematics and physics, people can study engineering. So new set of branches are going to come up. Not all engineering courses, but new set of branches might come up. It happens. So choice-based credit system allows a lot of other aspects in the engineering field pertaining to not the regular engineering. Maybe new set of courses might emerge, and these new set of courses has to be combined with the regular engineering courses, which gives you a kind of what you call it as learning something new, adopt it to the present system. That's called choice-based credit system. You are going to do that, get it. And then governance and leadership, people call it as, is also important. That's how innovation has been defined in national education policy. Apart from that, national education policy also discusses about entrepreneurship. Remember, entrepreneurship is being encouraged in the NEP with two aspects. One is local knowledge and local professions to be preserved. Partially I agree and partially I disagree with this. Maybe students can also think about it. Preserving local knowledge, yes. But preserving the professions, not necessary. Promoting and preserving local knowledge is, yes, 100% agreed. But professions means, again, the profession has to be continued by the same family is what is being asked earlier. And if the same thing is being asked now, is a tough job. So as far as the entrepreneurship is concerned, the profession should change its shape, then it is fine. And NEP says, NEP doesn't say anything about it. We need to find out whether the preserving, promoting and preserving the profession, how does it happen through entrepreneurship is still a vague point. School complexes are the centers to do this. Traditional local arts and local occasional crafts is another point which has been mentioned as entrepreneurship. I personally feel that the traditional local arts and vocational crafts may not help, may partially help, but the local entrepreneurship has to evolve from the vocational courses from a different perspective, where the technology which is changing. So entrepreneurship should be seen from providing different kinds of vocational training. Like for example, today a lot of issues are coming from usage of smart mobile on fintech companies, financial tech companies like wallets. Banking sector has under huge amount of influence with these transactions, but at the same time these transactions are creating so much amount of agony to the people who are using it, even including what you say the educated persons. So we need some kind of a technical requirements which help the people in rural areas. So vocational course pertaining to that is going to be an important component. So the entrepreneurship has to be driven be to understand, to extract new ideas, new requirements from the rural areas in such a way that the new courses will emerge and new kind of help system, new kind of an ecosystem will actually be provided at the rural levels. This is what an additional point which I thought. The digital era has also created new avenues. That's what I'm trying to mention here. Free software is the way forward. One of the important issues, access to internet. Digital India is aimed at access to internet. Interestingly, Jio has provided access to digital resources in India with the help of what you call as mobile, using BSNL backbone. The same BSNL backbone can be used. Backbone is there, fiber network is there for every village. What is not there is end user connection. Last milestone connectivity does not exist, and that last milestone connectivity has been provided by Jio. We need to provide last milestone connectivity from multiple methods. It's not that difficult. Like for example, if you have the internet connection, you have the wired connection in all villages, where the wired connection is provided from the local what you say Hathway providers. The TV broadcasting is being provided by Hathway. So there is a wide connection. You can use that wire, a coaxial cable wire, to provide internet to households in rural areas. Is also possible rather than the wireless connection. If you wanted to give wireless connectivity, still not Jio, there are multiple ways of doing it. Svecha has made some kind of an attempt to create a wireless connectivity with the help of Freedom Box. There is some attempt which was made. There are a lot of other attempts which can be made. It's possible because new set of new gadgets are coming. Ubiquitous computing devices are coming. It's possible for us to use the ubiquitous computing devices to provide last milestone connectivity in the internet. Still, it is far-reaching. There are a lot of issues which can be taken up. Innovative activities are necessary here. The NEP says school complex. Can we use school complex to provide access to all students? One method of doing it. Can we use tool complex? Can we use tool complex in such a way that it becomes a center for what to say training of financial transactions through mobile? Possible, but we need to create resources, digital resources for such kind of a requirement. It means what are the new modes of digital resources? It's not just text. It could be audio and video and symbols for interactive purposes, rather than the GIF files and text mode of interaction. You have to have a different kind of mode of interaction. Very, very important is to identify what kind of models that we need to provide. And the free software also provided collaborative models. What kind of collaborative models? What do you mean by collaborative models that we think about it? Whom to collaborate? With whom? How? Where are various issues? The biggest aspect is the once you start learning JIT, you'll be able to understand what is the collaboration model. People has to be provided access to this collaboration. If you start using Wiki, you'll be able to identify collaboration models. So a lot of scope is there. Huge amount of applications, huge amount of new tools are emerging in the free software domain. Yes, you'll have new models which can be emerged. A person who can speak effective English and a group of people who can speak only local language, Telugu, combined together, provide both the kind of information in English, information in local language, and put them in a wiki. Yes, that gives a serious implications in terms of collaboration models. Children who can actually tell stories, storytelling, prepare a small portal in such a way that with the help of React.js, you can create without a web page, without a website, you can create a web portal. Create a web portal and then see that the children who can really tell stories can place themselves in the world of internet. A lot of things, collaboration models exist. What we need is to think about them. And then transformation from technology aiding business to technology itself is today we should understand technology itself is a business. It's not technology aiding business. That's the biggest change, and that change forced every one of us to learn technology. And digital era has given a new slogan. Slogan is in such a way that local solutions using global standards. Whatever you use, the software, it should have a global standard. But what is that it has to provide? It should provide a local solution. Using a global standard of Unicode, can we provide a solution for a local language Telugu? That's what is important. Actually, Svecha did it. I'll come back to that, a few examples there. And then the experiences of free software communities is one which is very, very important. And I'll try to provide certain experiences of the free software community in Hyderabad in such a way that you'll be able to understand how innovation actually has a scope to flourish. Yeah, before that, I'll also mention this point. NEP says something more on entrepreneurship. Still, it says the school complexes is the prominent area, and then I think I already have mentioned that the school complexes becomes a center point of the entrepreneurship. So let me come back to one of the important experience of Svecha on innovation is an important point which I would like to mention. 2004 or 2005, somewhere around that period, where it is the beginning of the internet revolution as a whole. In that period, Svecha thought of using free software, using global standards, providing a local solution. And that local solution is that Telugu operating system. As simple as that. Telugu operating system means the front-end interface is English. Can we replace that front-end interface and every help file and the responses, everything to Telugu? Yes, it is possible. What is required for that is 2 or 3 things. One is wherever there is an English interface, there should be a translation of the words or sentences to local language, which is Telugu. So it means that we need a glossary. A glossary, prepare a glossary for every English word, appropriate Telugu word. That's one. So Svecha did, with the help of journalists, with the help of the Telugu community, and with the help of some of the tech people, Svecha prepared a glossary for all these words. So now you have a glossary today available. That's the effort in 2004, 2005. And then from the free software allows you to modify the code. So from the free software, how do you change the text, English text, into the local Telugu text? So what you need, two things. One is a font. The other one is a link of this font, Telugu font, to Unicode. So it means that you need a Unicode font. Prepare a Unicode font. There are solutions in such a manner that if an artist write the words or the characters, scan them, translate them, and carefully put them into a font and associate that font with the Unicode standard. There's the second part of it. And the third part of it is combine the font with font data or glossary with the operating system itself. So all these three, the PO files has been generated and the text editing has been done. So all these three aspects has been done with one, the journalist, the second one with the artist, and some part of it is technology people, and the third one is exclusively tech people. Combine all of them, Svecha created an operating system, and the name of the operating system distribution is also called Svecha. Interestingly, at that time, text-to-speech interface, we thought of providing it. The Telugu text-to-speech, synthetic speech, we didn't bother about the natural speech at that time. So when we try to look at the entire world, we found that Turkish phoneme sequences are very close to Telugu phoneme sequences. So we took the Turkish text-to-speech, which is available already, developed by somebody else, which is available already. We tweaked into that, modified that to Telugu text-to-speech. So what we have now is Svecha operating system combined with Telugu text-to-speech solution. And that distribution has been released in 2005. Similar kind of distribution which has been prepared with the help of students, IT people, and faculty members. That's called engineering Svecha as a distribution. Preparing a distribution earlier is a tough job. Today, it is much easier job. You can prepare a distribution of your college. MVSR distribution can be prepared easily. It's a matter of learning. That's it. So, Svecha started its experience, its way forward, saying that the idea should be local, but implementation should be with the help of global standards. It also did another solution for school education. It's called Bala Svecha. What it does in India, the biggest problem for government schools is that you have every facility available, but you don't have much facility to do practicals. Very, very difficult, because the government schools where the funding is much less. Certain practicals demand for huge amount of investment, like towers of an eye. Very difficult for you to implement. You need a chamber, and very difficult for you to provide such kind of a vacuum chamber. Very costly affair. In such kind of experiments, it is possible for us to simulate and showcase it to the students. So Bala Svecha distribution actually provides simulations, and simulations where the simulations are critical, difficult for as experiments to do it, but they provide the simulation environment as a beginning for understanding purpose. So without having nothing and having something is the one in such kind of a scenario. Apart from that, the other resources like the videos and large number of student what you say, games for learning purpose, and the big history project. So such kind of resources has been combined together, and it was actually bundled into Bharat Svecha. Now still the expansion is going on. Today, after pandemic, lot of other experiences are there, like live streaming, Big Blue Button, medical helpline. I'll just give some of the points here. Today we are using maybe Google Meet as a solution. Before Google Meet provided its online platform, there is another solution called Big Blue Button, which is available long back. Svecha, what it did, use that Big Blue Button virtual classroom solution, added with learning management system, which is Moodle. And the use case, a combination of these two, has been actually exhibited in FDPs, faculty development programs. And then May Day, there is an international program celebration which has been actually conducted. And during that period, the solution has been provided for conducting 24 hours program. And then online classes, like for example, Stanley College of Engineering uses this solution for conducting online classes. JNTU Electronics Department is also using the same solution for conducting online classes from the past 8 months. And the CBIT and MJIT is also using the Big Blue Button as a solution. KG Reddy College of Engineering is also using Big Blue Button as a solution. So the solution which has been tweaked by Svecha is now available for many more people. Right. There are certain limitations in the beginning. Like for example, one limitation is 200 simultaneous attendees is possible, not more than that. And in one meeting, a maximum of 100 to 120 students will be available. It means that in a single server of BBB, you can have maximum of 200 people, but in a single room, you can have maximum of 100 to 120. So how do you scale it up? How do you remove this kind of a limitation? Then certain issues like, can we load multiple servers? Allocate certain servers to colleges based on the requirement. These are all various issues in this. I'm sure if the students like you can join hands, you will be in a position to handle these issues. It's possible. And then another solution has made and provided by Svecha is, after pandemic, everybody is forced to stay back at home. So can we provide a live streaming solution? Because BBB has limitations. Live streaming solution has been provided by combining the free software bits and pieces into a end-to-end solution. This has been done by the team of Svecha. Interestingly, this solution is today provided to large number of colleges and also to different kinds of people who are involved. Like for example, a seminar and an EP has been conducted by Usmania University School of Distance Education. For them, the live streaming solution has been provided. Chairman Papi Reddy and other people have come for the session, and they have delivered the sessions. So such live streaming solution for people with more than 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people, 10,000 people, scaling is not a problem. That's the easiest way of doing it. So here, just look at it, the way in which the solution has been provided, which is a modular solution. The meeting room is a BBB room, and which is being connected to the main server. Then every edge gives you connection to a live streaming to at least for 400 to 500 people. Now, if you connect any number of edges, multiple number of edges, let's say 100 edges means 100 multiplied by 500. 50,000 people can see it. So there is no limitation. Scaling is possible is one approach which has been provided by this. Another application which has been provided in the same period is the medical helpline. Svecha has done this. This is an interesting innovation. When there is no possibility of access to the doctors in the pandemic period, all hospitals were closed. Normal hospitals were closed. Clinics were closed. In such case, nobody was allowed to come out. How do you provide medical help, basic help? This is the biggest issue. So what Svecha did, it identified doctors, it identified the frontline connectors, it identified the tech solution. So the tech solution will give you a connectivity between the person who is at one end asking for a medical help, and he'll be in a position, he'll be connected to a doctor, and the doctor gives the prescription on phone, which is recorded, and the prescription will be translated specifically and send it to the person who asked for medical help. So the whole process has been done with the help of what you call it as a tech solution. And the calling, responses, connecting the people, all these things has been done with the help of a tech solution there. For a period of 3 months, more than 20,000 more than 20,000 people asked for medical help, and Svecha could provide that. It happened because of the free software. Remember, free software gave a solution for such kind of effort. Free software is the future, no doubt about it. And now Svecha is already going ahead with certain amount of flagship projects, which we call it as innovative projects in future. Like, for example, the Telugu speech to text. I have mentioned about earlier text to speech. Now, can we build speech to text? If we build speech to text, what happens? You have a text to speech solution. If you build a speech to text solution, then translation is not necessary. You can, anybody from any country can come to Andhra Pradesh, and he can speak in his language. We can speak in Telugu, and both of us can communicate if we are able to build Telugu speech to text solution. China has done it, but we need to do it. What innovation that is, remember, because Telugu speech has diversified phoneme sequences. Can you combine common things into one and then provide speech to text at the beginning? Then later we can improve on it. One, computer vision for agriculture, a very serious requirement that's happening today. Lot of work is happening, lot of work is going on using drones for agriculture, better improved productivity of the agriculture. And then you have improvement in BBB server and live streaming platform, which I have already mentioned. Fake news detection is one of the important. See, every time any issue that flare up, naturally it is being followed by a set of fake news. There is Alt News website, which is digging into the fake news and identifying whether it is good or is fake or whether it is right, and then providing the information in their website. Similar kind of requirement is necessary for Telugu news also, for Telugu people also. Fake news detection is very, very important requirement. That's another approach. And then civic tech. See, we have a lot of problems that are there. Like, we never saw, Hyderabad has seen urban floods, which never happened earlier. 15 years back, 15, 20 years back, we never thought of urban floods. But today, urban floods has become reality. What happened during urban floods? people died because they are unable to understand whether when they are moving, what exactly is in front of them. That's the biggest problem. So can we really provide civic tech and showcase exactly whether the pothole is there in front of them, or whether the water is, or whether the ground is normal or not. So it's possible for us to build the tech resources in such a way, that GIS resources in such a way that the civic tech will help people even under the serious problem like urban floods. Many people died, which we should be in a position to save the lives of the people. So you need such kind of what you say discussion, such kind of possibilities where you can involve and then get things done. So what I mean here is we have a scope for a lot of innovations. Innovation is the order of the day, no doubt about it. But innovation is possible with the help of collaboration, and collaboration never happens inside the college. What happens inside the college is experimentation, but collaboration is outside the college. I request all students and faculty to collaborate with people outside the college. But what you should do inside the college? Experimentation, validation of ideas. So ideas will emerge with discussion outside the college, but implement those ideas with the help of the infrastructure available in college. Use free software, that's the way forward. And especially clubs like GLUG, GNU Linux User Group, is a place for showcasing your organizational caliber, is a place for showcasing your innovations. So inside the college, GLUGs, experimentation, validation of ideas, and then outside the college, collaboration, and the way forward should be free software. So I personally feel there is a scope for the innovations, large number of innovations in NEP, and to make it realize in your life, you need the collaboration and implementation, both of them at two different places, but your college is always a place for implementation with the help of democratic space and organizational caliber, which leads to a lot of innovations. And I am sure that your college and the students will definitely make this happen. So I thought of sharing the brief aspects of this with you all and allowing you for question answer sessions.
Sir,
Yeah.
thank you for your valuable speech and time. Sir, I have a small doubt. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Sir, you are talking about the technologies like a CLUG and free software. Can you elaborately, like a few sentences, can you tell about?
Yeah. See, free software means everybody know Linux,
Yeah, okay.
right? Yeah. Free software starts with Linux. Whatever I am using, like you are using Google, you are actually using Google, right? Google
Yes.
uses Android, and
Okay.
Google uses Android. 90% of the Android is free software. Android uses the kernel, which is Linux kernel.
Okay.
Applications are also free software, like for example, Gmail. Okay.
Okay.
You have a Gmail app. Gmail app is a free software application. Like for example, on my computer, on my laptop, I have an application called Thunderbird. It is a mail client. It's a free software.
Okay.
I'm using a Open Office for preparing my presentation. Okay.
Oh,
My presentation was prepared on Open Office, LibreOffice, I call it as.
okay.
Okay.
Online version.
You can prepare on Linux and also on Windows also,
Okay, sir. Okay.
right? And I'm using the display version display application is called Ocular.
Okay.
Okay, it's a PDF display application. So if VLC media player,
Okay.
right? VLC media player is also a free software.
Yes, sir. Open
So
source.
start with Linux.
Okay.
You'll be able to find Debian is one of the biggest. I'll tell you one simple example. You go to Google Summer of Code today.
Okay, sir.
There are many projects on Debian now. There are hundreds of projects on GNOME. There are hundreds of projects on KDE, KDesktop. There are many projects that are available on free software and in Google Summer of Code. If you start working in Linux, then all of them will make sense, right? So once you know certain things initially, then you will be in a position to actually intervene into that. Hope you understand.
Yeah, yeah, sir. Thank you
And
for
then,
clarifying, sir.
yeah, and then Glug is a small GNU Linux user group. See, many
Sure.
colleges like JNTU has a JNTU Glug, right?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Which has associated with Swechha, but still JNTU Glug is more popular. Maybe
Oh,
I'll tell you a small example that who is an active member of JNTU Glug earlier. Now he is working. He is actually in Sweden. He is in Sweden.
okay.
he he is an entrepreneur there. He is a startup. He has a startup. He is now from Europe. The Forbes magazine has selected 60 people, and out of them, 30 uh, uh, will be screened out. And they mention the Forbes magazine, and that publication actually says that 30 top 30 of Europe below the age group of 30. Last year, from Sweden, uh, uh, I think Greta Thunberg was selected in the Forbes 30 magazine. Now he was selected. The student who is active in such a JNTU Glug, he was selected now in the screened 60-member people from the Europe.
Okay.
That's really great. So people who start their career in the free software, they found a lot of ideas. That's the biggest advantage of free software.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
associating with a Glug will help them improve their organizational skill. Like the person whom I am talking, when he went to Sweden, he started actually initially helping the students who came from India, and now he became because of that organizational skill. Now he became the most important person in the startup domain. So people need organizational skills, democratic skills, and tech skills, and innovation. All put together, we need to provide them a space. Clubs is one, Glug is one club. Hope
Okay.
you understand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, okay, sir. Thank you for your valuable speech and spending your valuable time for our students. Thank you for providing a lot of information regarding national education policy, which is implementing by the AICT, and also motivating our students in various aspects, like telling about Swechha, about open free softwares and the Linux user group, Glug. Oh, and also I thank you for my HOD and all the participants uh, for attending this webinar. Uh, Sir, thank you, Pratap Garu,
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
giving
Thank
your
you very much.
valuable speech. Uh,
Yeah.
Sir, I'll get back to you later. Let's
Yeah.
end the session, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for giving an opportunity to me. Right. Okay.
We are. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir. Okay.
The participants can leave the session now.